Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. We're all George. So, welcome to another market open stream. We are starting out a new week. Unfortunately, we have to talk about this Bitcoin whale that dumped a whole bunch of Bitcoin. Why did he do it? And what does this mean overall? Let's discuss what to expect this week. All right, let's do it, guys. Welcome. Unfortunately, we are starting out the day at 111.5, and that's due to this whale dumping yesterday and dumping some more today. For whatever reason, this whale wants to dump. I could speculate why. I'll get to that in a little bit. And also, the U.S. market is starting out in the red, so that's not helping as well. So this, of course, comes after a terrific Friday when everything rallied because of the dovish stand from Fed Chair Powell. I expect this to be a good week. Not sure why it's starting out red, but you know what? We could always turn around, and there could be some profit taking as well. I did mention my video yesterday. There are a few major events to look forward to this week. We have some Fed presidents talking today, but what's really important is Wednesday when NVIDIA has an earnings report, a lot of eyes on it. And then Thursday we have GDP and jobless claims, a lot of eyes on that. And of course, Friday, we have another inflation reading, a different kind called PCE, and all eyes will be on that, whether we go up or down or stay even. Obviously, the optimal would be to go down, but we'll see. We had mixed results with other inflation reports, like CPI actually went down, but PPI went up. So we'll see what PCE, what it does. And PCE is the main one that the Fed likes to use. So a lot of macro stuff this week. However, Goldman Sachs predicts now that we had a dovish Powell, we will get 3 rate cuts for the remaining of this year, not 2. And that would be fantastic. So even though we may not get that 50 basis point cut in September, which right now it's at 83% chance that we will get now it's at 86. That we'll get a cut in September, but then you go into October, there is a 49% chance for another rate cut. And December, you get a 48% chance for a cut. So we may get 3 cuts in a row, guys. September, October, December. That will definitely kick things off and lead us into that Santa rally, right? So that's looking good. But I guess we have to get past this week and see what the PCE inflation report looks like this Friday. So we'll see. Now, as of last week, the inflows surprisingly has been red. Not surprisingly, because we had a whole bunch of selling. The U.S. market was selling off. But what is surprising was what happened on Friday. Even though Bitcoin and all of crypto shot up after that Jackson Hole speech, the outflow continued for Bitcoin. Despite all the ETFs having inflows, BlackRock still had close to 200 million outflow, and the day turned out to be negative 23 million. That is a surprise. However, on the flip side, Ethereum took in 338 million. So the momentum is definitely still there for Ethereum and flowing in. And now, according to ETFs, has a lot more momentum than even Bitcoin, which is really strange. Or maybe there are a lot of people thinking that it is altcoin season and they're making the shift. But that surprised me, seeing this. I thought for sure that would be positive. But that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. And of course, out of nowhere, yesterday and today, we had some OG Bitcoin whale that dumped 36,000 Bitcoin. Not $36,000, not $36 million. We're talking about billions, 4+ billion, $4 to $5 billion worth of Bitcoin dumped at once. And you got to figure someone that's a OG Bitcoin whale that has billions of Bitcoin would be smart enough not to dump at the same time. He literally sent it to this exchange, this decentralized exchange, and sold 24,000 at once. Didn't try to spread out the buy, didn't do 1,000, or sells, didn't do like 1,000 Bitcoin at a time. No, 24,000 Bitcoin at one time. And then today he dumped 12,000 at one time. And some are wondering why he's doing it. It's pretty obvious that he's trying to bring the market down. Maybe he has some shorts. Maybe he doesn't like the competition because there was another whale that placed a 10x long on ETH last week and made a boatload of money. I don't know. But this was definitely done on purpose to drive things lower. Okay. Now, I see a lot of people saying, well, if a whale could dump 36,000 Bitcoin, but then like Saylor buys 36,000 Bitcoin, doesn't move the price, how is that fair? You got to realize this person could have sold OTC, could have reached out to any number of big exchanges and said, hey, I want to dump 36,000 Bitcoin. The reason being he didn't do that is because, again, he wanted to cause the price to come down. Unlike Saylor and others, when they buy, they're not actually trying to cause it to go up. They're removing supply, yes, which ultimately will cause the price to go up slowly, but they spread out their buys. Even OTC, they spread out their buys. Saylor one time said one of his larger purchases, it took like a week or so to fill because they were spreading out the buys, thousands of buys, to make sure that the price stays stable. But this person obviously did not want to go that route and probably wanted to stay anonymous too. So they did it on purpose. Again, the motivation, don't know. Maybe he wants to go into ETH. I doubt it. When you have that much, when you have tens of billions of dollars of Bitcoin, why would you switch to ETH? No, there's something else going on. We just don't know what it is, right? But whatever he did definitely smashed through a lot of levels. And that's why we had a large, long liquidation event again over this weekend, primarily yesterday, because of what he did. Now, who knows? Maybe he has a lot of shorts placed, and this is how he gets into the game, right? Maybe he has a lot of shorts placed on alts, and basically he knows by bringing everything down, he's going to make a boatload of money. More than what he lost in the drop with Bitcoin. Just don't know at this point, right? But the good news is, okay, there's always good news. Yeah, we had this event happen, okay, which dropped Bitcoin down from 115 down to 110. That was with a $3 billion sell simultaneously, okay, to do that. And then we recovered, and then we had another 12,000 Bitcoin sold, and we didn't go any lower. We're still at the same point, basically, as yesterday, which shows how strong the market is. Remember when Germany had 30,000 Bitcoin and wanted to sell? It did that. It rocked markets a little bit, and then we recovered. This time around, you have someone intentionally trying to bring the market down. And they did a little bit, a few percentage points. But overall, Bitcoin is still remaining strong. I made this point in my video yesterday. If this happened last cycle or during the winter or during any other time besides now, because volatility is the lowest right now, we would have seen a 10%, 15%, 20%, 30% drop with alts and 10+% with Bitcoin, and that's not what we're seeing right now, right? So you got to view it positive. That, yeah, even though this person sold, well, that's 36,000 less Bitcoin that could be dumped on the market. It's being spread out. It's being decentralized if you think about it in terms of supply. And, you know, we will move forward. It's not going to stop anything. It really won't. Speaking of Saylor, decided to buy another 3,000 Bitcoin. It's not 36,000 Bitcoin, but, you know, he's been buying every week. So it's going to add up, right? And he holds 632,000 Bitcoin. Now, if Saylor sold 600,000 Bitcoin once, that would disrupt things. But even if he did that, maybe we have a 30% correction for Bitcoin, but we will recover from that. Even if he sold that, the market has so much demand now, we will still recover from that. It's not like if he did, Bitcoin would just slide down to zero and die. No, it won't. So that's the beauty. Short-term volatility always happens, but it's not going to stop the train. This is an unstoppable train at this point, right? And it's not just Saylor that's buying. All these other companies from Japan now have bought just recently, and they continue to buy more. So there you go. Now, speaking of volatility, I didn't mention volatility for Bitcoin right now is near like all-time low. If you look at the orange, basically, look at how high it was in 2020. Then look at 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, right? And 2025, yeah, we climbed up a little bit, but we're falling back down to that ultra low level. Bitcoin volatility is the lowest it's basically ever been in any cycle. It's lower than even someone like Nvidia, right? It's not as low as gold, but that's a good thing. We don't want it to be as low as gold yet, because then basically it never stops. It never moves anymore. But a lot of you guys may be new, or a lot of you guys maybe are not new, and you're frustrated. But just know that any kind of movement that we're seeing now, any kind of retracement is like very, very tame compared to how things were in previous cycles. Again, people don't realize how volatile it was in previous cycles. Even 2021 cycle, which didn't seem like it was that long ago. It was really 4 years ago. It seemed like it was decades ago. But even 2021 cycle, people forget, we fell down 50% mid-pump, mid-parabolic phase. 64,000 down to 28,000 before going back up to 69,000. That's volatility, okay? When we go down like 5%, 10%, and then we recover, that's nothing compared to like a 50% drop. And that's what Bitcoin, alts within that time dropped like 80%. And that happened within like a month. Right? So just keep in mind, if you're a little bit, I don't know, scared, know that right now, this is the least volatile cycle of any before. And again, when in doubt, zoom out and realize that, hey, we're doing pretty well compared to 6 months ago, or a year ago, or 2 years ago, or whatever, right? So now, some good news. We formed a CME Gap. We always talk about the stupid CME gaps that bring us lower. But hey, now we got a higher one because we closed on Friday at 117,200, I think, right? So basically where we are now to the top there, we got a big gap to fill. And these gaps always tend to fill one way or another. So we're going to fill this gap. And that means we're going to climb back up. Whether it's today, tomorrow, end of the week, it's going to happen. These CME gaps somehow always gets filled. So this is in one case, it's helping us because we always have these CME gaps at the bottom and somehow we always go down to a level to fill them. But we got an upper one to look forward to. All right. Bitcoin, basically, according to some traders, we need to get back to 112 and then we could get back to 120, no problem. Right. But this whale that keeps dumping, and plus Wall Street is looking pretty red. Let's see what happens today. Let's see if we can recover today. We get a lot of shakeout times, right? And then we recover really, really quickly. Today could be one of those days. We'll see. Outside of Bitcoin, I talked about ETH. ETH is still extremely strong right now. You still have a ton of whales now loading up on ETH all of a sudden. They're making this switch. So you got this whale that just scooped up another 108 million of Ether. Right? And then you got, look at this chart. Look at this chart. Basically, average order size on Binance for ETH. You could see all that accumulation. And you know when this happened last? Look at 2021, right? All the way up, the first time leading up to that 64,000 mark, all that whale accumulation. Look at all that, right? And then the second time around, it wasn't ETH accumulation. It was just more Bitcoin. So this is actually quite interesting. In 2021, it shows the first rally was led by ETH, second rally was led by Bitcoin. Interesting. But nevertheless, you still have a lot of room to grow. ETH is only getting started. Altcoin season is only getting started. And many others like Sol and others, they're just getting started as well, right? But it's encouraging to see that ETH definitely has some big whales and institution volume behind it. And that will help prop it up and move it forward. And a lot of people are calling, ETH being at 10,000 by the end of this cycle. The way it's moving now, probably. It's only a double from here. I think Bitcoin could still double, so ETH doubling for sure. ETH could probably do a triple, which would put it probably around $15,000, 12 to 15,000. I think that's actually pretty reasonable. This was predicted last cycle. Unfortunately, ETH sold off after the first big climb. We'll see what happens. I think they're just getting started now, so it could definitely happen. And by the way, a lot of people are asking about ETH and staking, right? Outside of Bitcoin, you have almost every crypto out there could be staked. But with native staking on ETH, it requires 32 ETH, which is quite expensive these days. A lot of people can't afford that. But that's why you can stake it into something like Trust Wallet, which I use. I love Trust Wallet. And they have staking options in there, especially for ETH. I just checked it before. It was like close to 3%, right? They have this service that they use called Killin, and basically it pools people's ETH together. So you don't have to put 32 ETH. You can put 1 ETH or 5 ETH or 0.1 ETH or whatever it is, right? And they'll pull it together and they'll stake it and then divide out basically the rewards. That's how it works. But yeah, if you have a lot of ETH and you just want to, you're going to hold on to it, you might as well just stake it and earn staking rewards. But I love Trust Wallet and I like the ability that they have with this. So just want to share that. What else? But outside of ETH, let's not forget Solana. Solana over the weekend was on fire. It hit almost 220. It came down because this is whale dumping, but Solana's momentum is definitely coming back. And because ETH has all these institutions now, Sol is getting them as well. You have 3 crypto firms that's raising a whole bunch, okay? And you have some treasury companies already like Sol Strategies and others that are loading up. But Sol, I think, well, and they're going to get their spot ETF. But Sol has the advantage of volume, transactions, and memes. Once we go into full-blown altcoin season, you know, that's when things will get wild, right? Solana definitely showing its strength recently. And if it could get back to its previous high of 300, if that it formed this year, so already broke 2021 high, it's ready to pop. So looking forward to that. What else? Last two things. Grayscale is looking to launch a spot avalanche ETF. Again, a whole bunch of ETFs are going to get approved 2 months from now, in October. Solana being one of them, XRP being another one. Avalanche maybe next. Once Grayscale does it, that's a big deal, right? But the only thing about Grayscale is because they have trust, a lot of times when their trust gets converted, then you have a whole bunch of insider selling first, right? That's the only downside. But the upside is, again, you get an ETF and you get a whole bunch of Wall Street money coming in. So we'll see. And then Canary wants to create an ETF for just American-based crypto. And that's fantastic. There's ETFs for everything, buckets of everything, for every industry, for every niche. So to get an ETF that's just American-based crypto, so you have all the major ones in there, so that people don't have to guess or know which ones to buy, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. But buying an ETF is still different than buying crypto directly, right? Obviously, there's no self-custody. And obviously, there are fees that you have to worry about. And there's like working hours, right? There's downtime. With crypto, it's 24/7. You get to control it. It's still very different. However, there are just a lot of people that never buy crypto. This will be the next thing. Next best thing. ETFs. Right. All right. That's pretty much it. Let's see. US market getting a little better. Started out even more red. Now it's recovering a little bit, but MicroStrategy not having a good day. -5, Coinbase -4, Circle -5, Robinhood -3. So far not good, but Bitcoin, yeah, 11.3. Sol is at 46.30, which is still fantastic. Let's not forget ETH was down here, and then now it's still up here. And Sol holding about 198, still fantastic. Not as good as the 220 that we were at, but let's not forget Sol was down here in the 170s and even 160s and 50s early August. So no, not all the gains have been wiped out. All right, let's do some Q&A. Got 4,000 people in here. Nice. A lot of people concerned about this whale dumping, but you know what? This is definitely manipulation. The whale, and you can't blame like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's naive. No, he's doing this on purpose. The good thing is that's 36 less thousand Bitcoin that could be dumped ever again. If he wants to lose out on all the potential gains, that's his business. I do wish, I've always said this, I do wish that Saylor and others would buy direct, right? During crypto winter, it was very obvious that a lot of a lot of manipulation was happening where whales would dump on the spot market and Saylor and others would buy OTC, and it didn't really help during crypto winter. But I get it. He has an obligation. He doesn't want to be seen as a price manipulator. You know, he already tweets out every time he buys and stuff. But if he starts buying non-OTC and buying, say, spot Coinbase, and every time he buys causes Bitcoin to pump up, I think he's afraid that, you know, first of all, his shareholders won't like that. And second of all, the SEC may get involved and look at if he's trying to manipulate the market. So there's a big difference. Rocky's asking, how far can AVAX reach this bull run? Haven't seen much movement. You know, AVAX, I think the biggest reason is, even though they're into a lot, like into RWA, working with banks, and, you know, they have a DEX, several DEXs, and they seem to have a vibrant community, but their biggest communities are games. Okay, they really back games. And DeFi Kingdoms, for example, is still, I think, their biggest volume generator. But games just have not been catching on. Games are not hot right now. So I think that's the biggest reason. That's why I don't know, you know, if they could get back to their 21 high, because they are very, very, very far off from their 2021 high. But hey, maybe. Maybe. I mean, they got to the 50s back in December, and they got to 65 back in March of 2024. So, you know, anything goes in altcoin season. Well, a lot of things turned green today. Nvidia turned green, Netflix turned green, Robinhood is starting to turn, Coinbase is starting to turn. You know, today could be one of those fake out days. Like, you know, starts out really bad and then turns good. Let's see. Near term levels. Okay. So that little dip that was happening while I was speaking, again, done on purpose. Fell down to this 110.5 level to clear out that level of longs. Again, totally done on purpose. And now we're recovering up. But if you look at all the levels going back up to like 115 and 119, you know, there's not that much. Right now, for whatever reason, people are trying to drive out the longs. I guess trying to kill the enthusiasm. But you got to think this is done for a reason, right? Probably for more accumulation. Christopher Jones asking, is 111 a good price to buy? I would say so. This is the lowest we've been for a while now. Although, when I say for a while, I mean, it's just like probably weeks. But, you know, if you look at it from top, we're $13,000 off from top. That's over 10%. So if you look at it that way, pretty good time to buy. Again, when you buy, it doesn't mean that you go all in. You always cost average your buys. You spread it out. right? So that way, in case we do go lower, you could always buy more. You gotta have cash on the side. That's what frustrates most people. It's like when things are down, they don't have the ability to buy anymore, and that's what they really get frustrated about. But if they had that cash pile and they're able to bring their buys, their cost average down over time, then by the time we recover, then of course they're in the green already. That's just how it works. Trump says government will make deals like Intel stake all day long. That's a little controversial. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Intel, as we know, has been struggling for a long time. A long, long time. When I was growing up, Intel was so dominant. AMD was a nobody. No one wanted AMD chips. Intel was so dominant, and Nvidia was still just a new player in the game in GPUs. Then slowly AMD got better and better and better, and AMD kind of took over the desktop market. And then slowly over time Nvidia started dominating GPUs and transitioned to working on AI, and also others started concentrating on mobile. Intel just never made the transition to mobile, or I don't know, they just started goofing up left and right. And now they sold a stake to the government in return for funds and support, right? So it's basically like almost become a state-run company now. I don't know if this is a good thing or not. I guess it's good for Intel. It gives them like a lifeline. But for the US government, do we really want to embrace like failing companies? It's all about, it's a free market. It's all about like, whoever can figure it out becomes a dominant powerhouse, right? Yeah, I don't know. And there's other questions whether or not the US government should be buying stakes at all, or getting stakes in companies. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. And we're coming up a little bit. Intel is building domestic semiconductor manufacturing facilities. Yeah, but are they any good? That's the thing. And you could give them subsidies and stuff for doing so, but taking a stake in them is a little bit different, right? And plus, we're trying to get TSMC to make their new plants in America too. And a lot of companies are committing to build new manufacturing plants in America. But that doesn't mean you have to take a stake in them. You give them subsidies, you give them tax breaks or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it saves Intel and they become a powerhouse again, then great. We do have an open CME gap between 113 and 117. So we have to fill that eventually. World of Elliott. I hold FED and AGIX. Do I need to combine both? Yes. Yes, you do. I don't know the process, the conversion. There's probably some kind of page you could go to where you can convert. Because on most exchanges, it was just done automatically. So if you were holding your wallet, there's probably somewhere you could go to convert. I just don't know where. World Liberty Financial Token. I've never been a big fan of that company. And I'm not, not super bullish on them. So, I don't know. They could do well. How to stop future whale manipulation in the crypto market? You don't need to stop it. You really don't. Okay? So this is the reason why we love crypto. It's volatile, but it moves like nothing else out there. If Bitcoin started moving like gold, I doubt very many of you guys would care for it, because it will probably move up and down maybe $1,000, $2,000 in a single year, right? So be careful what you guys ask for. If you wanted no volatility, you could go buy gold. It never moves, right? But the reason why we're in Bitcoin is because it can move. It can move very quickly. But nothing moves very quickly, only in one direction. I mean, let's not forget on Friday, we were at this level and we went up to 117 in hours. Things like that can happen, right? Only in crypto. It doesn't happen with things like gold, right? So you guys have to think about it that way. We still have plenty of room to grow over time. What does Bitcoin do? Even with all these distractions, over time, Bitcoin just continues to go higher and higher and higher and higher. So we want the volatility. You just got to make sure you're prepared for it. Not that you don't want volatility. You want to make sure you have money on the side so that you can take advantage of the volatility. That's the goal. Not that, oh, we want to end volatility. No. You want to be able to take advantage of the volatility. Be able to spot it if you can. And when whales are dumping and driving prices lower, you can take advantage. That's the end game. Yeah, if you take away the ability for ETH or SOL or SUI or XRP or Link to move 5, 6, 10, 15, 20% in a day, imagine if we put those breakers, like with stocks, like they have these emergency breakers and stuff. Crypto will be so much different. And I don't think anyone really wants that. See, we're recovering now. See, if you know how to spot it, right, then it makes a lot more sense, and then you can plan it better. For example, if you were looking at this and you knew, okay, there's a big level here that the whales are probably going to drive down to in short longs, right? Then you could buy right here. And then you'll be fine, right? Sometimes things are just unpredictable. Like no one could have known that a giant OG whale would sell 36,000 Bitcoin. Obviously, no one would know that. But that's why you have to prepare. If you have cash on the side, I've been saying 20, 25, 30% cash. Then it's a golden opportunity to buy cheap crypto. Naked Director, I bought MSTU at $13. Will I ever recover? What is it at now? It probably will, but MicroStrategy has not been doing well. That's why. Saylor does sell a lot of shares. That's how he's able to buy Bitcoin. So MSTU is 2x MST. So you just have to wait it out. Max B. You must be an OG in here if you remember me saying that. I was in high school, man. I was so dominant with rebounds and I'm not tall at all. So high school and college. And then I kept getting injured, and that was the end. Got a gap right there. Big gap to fill. So in this instance, gaps, well, this gap will help us, I guess. Matt, I've always said we're at the beginning of altcoin season. We definitely are. Otherwise, Bitcoin dominance would not have fallen into the 50s. But you're right, we're not in full-blown altcoin season. I said that. We're not going to see that until later this year. Maybe possibly start in October, November. That's when it's going to be full-blown altcoin season. But right now, we're at the very beginnings of it. Only a few alts have done well. Everything else have not. So that's how you could tell. Dehard, no, I can't. You have to decide what to do with your own portfolio. How does the CME Gap get created? Well, it's easy. You look at what price, because the market closes for stocks. So you look at what price Bitcoin was at when the market closed on Friday, and you look at what it is at the beginning on Monday, and that's the gap because nothing traded over the weekend. So that's how you create a gap. So we ended the day at 117 on Friday. We started the day at 110. That's a $7,000 gap that we need to fill. Man, 4,400 people in here. A lot of you guys are new coming in now. Again, just to recover what I said, this was done on purpose. Okay? Whoever this person is decided that they wanted to dump all at once, 24,000 at once, 12,000 at once, to drive things lower. Pure manipulation. We don't know the motives. Maybe he's buying ETH. Okay? Maybe he shorted everything, shorted all alts so that he can get in on them cheaply, right? Or for some other reason. Maybe he just wanted to cash out, but I doubt it because he's already a billionaire. You don't need to cash out $4 to $5 billion this way, right? But again, the good news is we had one person basically dump 36,000 Bitcoin at once, and we're still where we are now. So the market is strong. The demand is high. So this was gobbled up, and we may be right back to 117 by tomorrow. And this, no one will remember this anymore. It was someone that's huge. Jim Bean says it was Larry Fink. It has to be someone like at his level. To dump that much, that fast, it has to be someone, definitely a big person. A big, rich, powerful person. Jethro says, Whale sold Bitcoin for side chick weekly allowance. That's a big weekly allowance. You get a lot of side chicks with $4 billion. But look at us. We're recovering back up. Almost back to 112. ETH is almost back to 4,700. Sol almost back to 200. We're moving back, guys. This is why you never want to panic. Panic selling doesn't lead to anything good. Unless you have leverage and you need to save your, save your liquidity, sure. But if you're buying spot, no need to panic. All right, guys. I'll let you guys go. Overall, again, yeah, don't know why this person did it. It wasn't for good reasons, but it doesn't really matter. Market will eat this up. We will climb back, and no one will remember it anymore. And we have 36,000 less Bitcoin that could be dumped ever again, right? So stay strong, my friends. Continue to do what you're doing, which is holding and DCAing. That's all you could do, really. And it's the winning strategy. Don't deviate from that. And I'll see you guys tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Have a good one. Take care.